48 hours after lifting her first ever trophy, a 21-year-old girl walked into a stadium in a country she had never played in before, looked up at thousands of strangers waving a flag that wasn't Canadian, and said one single word that turned the entire building into something nobody in tennis had planned for. That word was, home. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that one word is now being treated as a turning point for an entire sport. But here's what makes this really unsettling for the people running these tournaments. Nobody saw this coming. Not the schedulers, not the broadcasters, not even the players she was about to face. So stay with me, because the second half of this story is where things get genuinely strange, and I promise you the ending will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about how fast a career can change. Before we go there, if stories like this, ones about someone completely rewriting the expectations everyone had for them, mean anything to you, do me one favor. Subscribe right now, before this video even continues. I say that because what's coming in the next few weeks from this story is going to move even faster than what you're about to watch, and I don't want you finding out about it from someone else's video days late. It takes 2 seconds. Hit subscribe, and let's get into what actually happened in that stadium. Let's compress the timeline first, because the speed of this is the whole story. On Monday, August 3rd, Eala beat world number 3 Jessica Pegula in the final of the Mubadala DC Open in Washington. She dropped the first set, then closed it out 4-6, 6-4, 6-0, bageling a top 3 player to win her first ever WTA Tour singles title. On Tuesday, the new rankings dropped, and Eala became the first Filipino player, of any gender, to ever crack the top 20 in the history of the sport. On Wednesday, without a single rest day, without a homecoming, without even unpacking properly, she landed in Toronto and walked straight into her National Bank Open debut against Alycia Parks. Champion on Monday. Top 20 on Tuesday. Debut on Wednesday. That's not a storyline. That's just what actually happened to her body in 72 hours. And Parks was not an easy draw to hand a tired champion. She'd already beaten Eala once this year, in the first round of the Australian Open. She's a big server who ends points before you've finished setting up. On paper, this was the question: could a girl running on fumes find another gear against someone who'd already solved her once? Eala answered that question almost immediately. She came out and won 5 straight games to close the first set 6-1, without facing a single break point. Then Parks, who does not hand out free points, dug in. She saved 4 break points to hold, then broke Eala to level the match at 4-6. First real sign all week that 7 wins across 2 cities in 7 days were starting to catch up to a 21-year-old's legs. Here's where it got tense. Third set. They traded early breaks. Then at 2 games all, Eala broke again, and this time she did not let go. She closed it out 6-2, 1 hour and 51 minutes on the clock, her 6th straight win of the swing, her second win over Parks, and revenge for that Australian Open loss earlier in the year. But the score was never actually the story. The story was in the stands. Sobeys Stadium seats over 12,000 people. And when the doors opened that night, the majority of that stadium turned into a sea of Philippine flags. Multiple Philippine outlets on site described the noise as constant, and even the tennis community online flagged the crowd as something different, not just loud, but organized, like a fan base that had specifically planned around this exact date. The chair umpire had to remind the crowd more than once to bring the noise down midpoint. That almost never happens for a second-round match involving a player making her tournament debut. And Eala noticed. Mid-match, she turned to the crowd, in Filipino, and said, "How are you today, Toronto? Show me your flags. There are so many Filipinos in the crowd tonight, so many flags." After match point, still catching her breath, she thanked the city, thanked the tournament, and then she said the line that mattered most. She said she felt very at home in Canada, surrounded by the people supporting her, in a country she had never once played in. Now here's the part that should make every remaining tournament on the calendar pay attention. The very next day, the National Bank Open confirmed something that tells you exactly how seriously they're taking this. They gave Eala the tournament's final doubles wildcard, and paired her with Venus Williams. 46 years old. One of the most recognizable names in the history of the sport, back on tour. That match was slotted straight into a night session. When a tournament puts a tennis debutante on court with a legend, in prime time, on purpose, that's not luck. That's the tournament telling you who they think is filling the building. And it isn't just the tournament noticing. Go back 7 months before any of this, before the trophy, before the ranking jump, before Toronto. At last year's Miami Open, an 18-time Grand Slam champion, Chris Evert, someone who does not hand out praise casually, posted publicly about Eala's run, marveling that a teenager had already beaten 3 separate Grand Slam champions in a single tournament. That's one of the most respected voices in the sport's history, on record, taking notice before almost anyone else did. Eala herself, after the Parks match, kept it grounded. No excuses, no inflated story. She told reporters, she played really well in the second, and there were definitely things I could have done a little better. I tried to improve on that in the third. I tried to come out hot and take all the opportunities one could, because she doesn't really give you much. That's a 21-year-old, 48 hours removed from her first title, calmly explaining a mid-match reset like it's just another Tuesday. So here's where this leaves us, and here's the part one need you to actually sit with. She is now 3 rounds into a tournament she nearly didn't have the legs for. She's playing Katie McNally next, the same player who just eliminated the reigning Wimbledon champion. She's teaming up with Venus Williams in doubles, by design, in front of a sold-out night crowd. And every single tournament left on this year's calendar, Cincinnati next, then the US Open, is now recalculating what a small court even means whenever her name is on the draw sheet. Because here's the thing nobody in tennis has fully answered yet. Is this a hot streak that cools off the moment the fatigue finally catches her? Or is this the start of something the sport hasn't seen the shape of yet? A player who brings an entire country's crowd with her, city to city, court to court, whether the tournament planned for it or not. That question doesn't get answered today. It gets answered over the next few weeks, in Cincinnati, then at the US Open, in the exact same kind of moment that just played out in Toronto. And if you want to actually see it unfold instead of hearing about it after the fact, this is the channel that's going to be covering every single round of it. So if this story pulled you in even a little, if you found yourself imagining what it's like to hear 12,000 strangers scream your name in a country you've never set foot in before, don't leave without subscribing. Turn on notifications too, because the next chapter of this could happen faster than you think, and I don't want you to miss the moment it does. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.